Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt it, that strange silence, not the peaceful kind, but the one that echoes inside your chest when no one's around? No music, no phone, just you and the raw truth you've been avoiding. Most men run from that silence. They jump from one relationship to another, terrified of what they might hear if they sat still for more than a few moments. They surround themselves with noise, scrolling, texting, pretending, just to avoid confronting the one person they've been running from their whole lives, themselves. But here's what no one tells you. The man who learns to sit in that silence becomes unstoppable, because in the quiet, something sacred happens. The fog begins to lift, the pressure to impress evaporates, and what's left behind is pure, unfiltered clarity. This is where strength is forged, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not in noise, but in solitude. And today we're going deep. We're going to dismantle every lie you've believed about loneliness and reveal the raw, untapped power of standing alone. If you're ready, let's begin. Number 1. Stop seeking to be chosen. Start choosing yourself. Most men live like actors, desperate for applause, constantly auditioning for approval. They filter their words to avoid rejection. They shrink their standards to keep the peace. They say yes when their soul is screaming no. Why? Because being liked feels safer than being real. But here's the brutal truth. Approval is a drug, and most men are addicted. They text back too fast just to seem interested. They agree to things they don't believe in, just to avoid conflict. They trade their truth for temporary comfort. But a man who has walked the path of solitude, he doesn't chase attention. He commands respect. He no longer asks, "Do they like me?" He asks, "Do I respect myself when I look in the mirror?" And that shift from validation seeking to self-honoring changes everything. Because once you stop chasing, people stop running. Once you stop proving, people start noticing. And once you start choosing yourself, the world begins to mirror your value. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's the kind of energy women feel, not the desperate pull of a man who needs her to feel worthy, but the magnetic calm of a man who's already whole. Number 2, raising your standards isn't harsh, it's holy. Most men are afraid to raise their standards because they fear being alone. But the man who values himself doesn't lower his voice to be heard, doesn't bend his values to be accepted, doesn't entertain relationships that drain more than they give. He understands something most men never learn. Loneliness isn't the enemy. Low standards are. And when you raise your standards, not from ego, but from self-respect, your entire energy shifts. You don't need to argue. You don't beg. You don't explain yourself to people who've proven they don't understand you. You simply move, quietly, powerfully, because your time, your energy, your presence, it's sacred. Let the wrong ones walk. Let the noise fade, because the right people, they rise to meet you. Number 3, emotional mastery, the calm within the chaos. Here's what you'll notice. Most men crumble under pressure, not because they're weak, but because they've never sat still long enough to master themselves. They react when they're triggered. They panic when they're uncertain. They lash out when they feel insecure, because their emotions own them. But the man who has mastered solitude, he's walked through the fire of his own mind. He's confronted the chaos. He's wrestled his demons. And because of that, he doesn't flinch when life tests him. A woman pulls away, he doesn't beg. A challenge arises, he doesn't panic. Someone disrespects him, he doesn't lose his center. Why? Because he doesn't draw strength from the approval of others. He draws it from the mountain he's built within. That's real power, not loud, not boastful, but unshakable. Emotional control is the new masculine, and the man who holds it, he becomes untouchable. Number 4. Laser focus is a superpower in a distracted world. Most men can't sit still, not because they're restless, but because they're running from the truth. They scroll, they chase, they consume, and in doing so, they give away the one thing they can't get back: focus. But the man who embraces silence, he stops bleeding energy. He stops wasting hours on conversations that go nowhere. He stops pouring his life force into temporary pleasures. Instead, he builds, he sharpens, he commits, and brick by brick, day by day, he becomes a man of discipline and direction. While others chase, he creates. While others doubt, he decides. While others scroll, he stacks wins. Because in a world that's starving for meaning, the man who can sit alone and stay focused becomes a force of nature. Number 5. A relationship should be an addition, not a crutch. Here's the truth: most men don't choose their relationships. They fall into them out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of rejection. Fear that no one better will come. So they tolerate disrespect. They silence themselves to keep the peace. They compromise their mission to feel wanted. But the man who's mastered solitude, he doesn't chase connection. He evaluates it. He knows his worth. He honors his standards. And he's not afraid to walk away. Not with resentment, but with peace. Because his life is already full. He isn't searching for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone worthy enough to walk beside him. And that kind of man, that kind of presence, it doesn't just attract the right woman, it makes her feel lucky to be chosen. Solitude is an emptiness. It's the forge where kings are built. Every second you resist chasing, you're building something most men will never taste: unshakable self-respect. So if you're tired of feeling lost, if you're tired of lowering your standards just to feel accepted, then maybe it's time to stop running. Step into the silence, face yourself, build the man you were always meant to be. Because once you become that man, you don't need to beg for attention. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to prove your worth. You are the storm, and the world will have no choice but to pay attention. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from the men who are ready to live different, sharper, stronger, and more intentional. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, discipline is freedom. Solitude is strength. Self-mastery is the foundation. Think about whether this channel is worthy of getting your love and support. If it is, don't hesitate. We will meet in the next video. Until then, keep evolving.